Okay, so picture this: my brother's turning 25 and he's getting a rented lake house, a private chef, the whole luxury deal. Meanwhile, my birthday, I get a sad little grocery store cupcake and a lecture on gratitude. Yeah, really. And here's the thing: I wasn't just going to sit there and take it. No, I had a plan. What happened next? Let's just say, by the end of the week, I wasn't the one being ignored anymore. Buckle up. I sat there, physically shaking, my hands trembling so much under the polished mahogany dining table that I had to clasp them together just to keep them from knocking over a glass or a silver fork. And no, it wasn't the cold. The restaurant was warm, impeccably climate controlled, smelling of truffle oil and aged steaks, the kind of scent that makes you feel fancy just by breathing. No, it was everything else the last 48 hours of running on practically no sleep. The exhaustion that had built into this kind of vibrating, raw ache. And then that sudden pang of disappointment that hit me right in the chest. Sharp and precise, like a personal heartbreak. I'd spent the week running around for my brother Ryan's 25th birthday. I wasn't getting paid for it well. Not with money anyway, but for years. I thought the currency of family duty was worth something. Apparently, it wasn't. Dad, Mason, stood up, raising a crystal flute filled with champagne, his voice booming with that kind of performative cheer that made the restaurant staff glance our way. Like, yes, this is a big deal. He toasted Ryan, his golden boy, the son who'd clearly never had to worry about reservations, chef confirmations, or rental cars, to a quarter-century of brilliance, he said. And Ryan, sitting there with his perfectly gelled hair and that new designer watch one I knew he hadn't paid for, grinned lazily, all charm and ease. Thanks, Dad. Seriously, this whole week is going to be sick. I could feel the tension knotting tighter in my stomach. Mom, Liliana, wasn't far behind. She reached across the table to squeeze Ryan's hand, her manicured nails digging slightly into his skin, a touch that was possessive, adoring, almost territorial. A week at the Lakeview Lodge, she said, voice sweet, almost cooing. Just imagine the boat rental, the private chef coming in on Thursday. You deserve every bit of it, sweetie. My brain was scrambling. Every sentence, every little gesture was like a reminder that Ryan was the sun and I was some invisible planet orbiting him. I froze, watching them talk about the extravagant week ahead. Technically, my birthday was today. Yesterday was Ryan's, today was mine. And for as long as I could remember, our birthdays had been merged, or rather, mine had been swallowed whole by his, like a small moon consumed by a gas giant. I looked at the pile of gifts stacked next to Ryan's chair, a brochure for the lake house, an envelope with a confirmation for a luxury SUV rental, a box for a new gaming console. I felt a pang of anger, tiredness, and disbelief all rolled into one. Mason cleared his throat, eyes flicking toward me. And, of course, happy birthday to our Saudi. The table went quiet. My mom didn't look at me. She was too busy signaling the waiter to refill Ryan's glass. Oh, right, Ryan said, chewing, half-heartedly. Happy birthday, sis. That voice, like it was an afterthought, hit me like a bucket of cold water. Liliana reached into her oversized tote bag. Maybe, I thought, maybe they did plan something. Maybe they remembered. She pulled out a small, clear plastic container. Inside sat a single cupcake. I knew the brand, the exact shade of neon pink icing, the slightly sweating plastic lid, discounted from the chain grocery store down the street. The manager's special tag residue clung stubbornly to the bottom. It looked absurd, ridiculous, a cruel joke set on the white linen tablecloth amidst crystal flutes and expensive silverware. Next to it was a card. I opened the envelope. Generic, bulk. I have 50 of them in a box. Inside, in Liliana's looping handwriting, "Happy birthday. Maybe next year will be your year." She leaned closer, voice dropping to a stage whisper that implied I was destitute, though I wasn't. "We know things have been tight, so we kept it simple. Didn't want to overwhelm you. Simple." I whispered the word aloud. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. Simple. "Oh, don't start," Liliana snapped instantly. Her face hardened. "Ryan is turning 25. She said, "It's a milestone. You're 28. Just a Tuesday." I had been planning this dinner, reserving tables at the Obsidian on Friday night, organizing a week at the lake house, vetting the chef. "And you did a great job," Ryan said dismissively, reaching for the cupcake. "Can I have this watching your carbs anyway?" "Right." I froze. Something inside me, a structural beam that had been holding up decades of my family's unspoken hierarchy, snapped quietly, terrifyingly. I watched Ryan hover his hand over the plastic lid, watched Mason studiously examine the wine list to avoid my gaze, and Liliana, with that same sharp smirk, watching for my reaction. Betrayal. The realization washed over me. Not that they loved him more, they didn't even respect me enough to hide their disdain. The waiter arrived just in time with the main courses, the distraction barely saving the moment from boiling over. Ryan's massive bone and ribeye, Liliana's delicate sea bass, Mason's lamb. And then he paused, looked at me, flustered. I apologize, miss. It seems I don't have an order for you on the ticket." The silence hit like a weight. Liliana laughed, light and tingly, the kind that grated like sandpaper on my nerves. She made a joke about me being fine, about just picking at the appetizers, but I hadn't said a word. My stomach twisted. I was hungry not just physically, but in every other sense of the word. I had spent the morning negotiating the lake house pool glitch, the last few hours running on 4 hours of sleep. I hadn't eaten all day, and here they were, feasting, oblivious, and utterly self-absorbed. I took a sip of water, trying to steady my hands, while Ryan talked with his mouth full about jet skis and boat rentals. Mason nodded along. Liliana cutting her fish with surgical precision, eyes darting to see if anyone else noticed how perfect their family tableau looked. I quietly pulled out my phone, hidden by the napkin, opening the airline app I had been staring at in daydreams for weeks. I had a flight in 3 hours, somewhere far away, anywhere I wasn't invisible, anyone I wasn't serving. I kept my voice steady. I asked Liliana a simple question about the lake house check-in, keeping it casual, almost conversational. "Yes, obviously," she said, waving her fork. But the way she said it, dismissive, casual, it made my chest tighten. She didn't see the quiet storm brewing in me, not the exhaustion, not the rage, not the humiliation, not the realization that after years of managing every detail of their lives, fixing every problem, saving them from consequences of their own carelessness, I was the invisible one. I was exhausted, undervalued, and for a fleeting, terrifying moment, the thought came maybe next year wasn't going to cut it. Maybe. Just maybe. I could change the rules. I looked down at the cupcake again. Maybe next year. That phrase, that stupid card, had been my life's silent motto. But tonight I could write my own. I guess if you take a step back, you'd realize I've been running their lives for years. Quietly, invisibly. Like, I became the family's secret event planner, tech support, crisis manager, and unpaid financial consultant all rolled into one. When Ryan got a DUI at 21, I found the lawyer, organized the community service, made it look like he'd voluntarily done good deeds for the court. When Mason and Liliana renewed their vows, I negotiated the venue down by 40%, coordinated vendors, and stayed sober the whole night, making sure everything ran perfectly. Nobody even said thanks. It wasn't just big events. I handled the small, relentless stuff too. Scheduling appointments, fixing tech issues, managing budgets, keeping track of every bill, every reservation, every little detail. My life became a constant stream of checklists and logistics for them. I was the one everyone assumed would just do it. And here's the thing, because I did it so flawlessly, because I made it invisible, I got nothing. Not a single nod, not a single moment of recognition. Invisible. That was me. I remember when Ryan broke a neighbor's window with a baseball. Liliana blamed the neighbor for putting a greenhouse too close to the fence. When I got a B+ in AP calculus, Mason asked why I couldn't focus like Ryan, who was failing remedial math but was supposed to be this creative genius that shouldn't be stifled by grades. That was the dynamic. I learned early that love and approval in my family weren't given freely, they had to be earned, and only in ways that benefited someone else. By 18, I realized that if I couldn't buy their love with achievement, I would buy it with utility. I became indispensable. If a crisis appeared, I was a solution. If there was chaos, I was the calm in the storm. My life became a series of sacrifices for theirs. By 25, I was managing 6-figure weddings and corporate retreats professionally. And what did I use those skills for? Mostly for my family. Every flight, every hotel booking, every little errand, they expected me to handle it, to make it seamless. And I did. I organized every trip, every family vacation. I managed the finances. I was the first person up, last one to bed, juggling spreadsheets while they slept or played video games. I was exhausted, running on fumes constantly. And yet, I was supposed to smile, to be happy, to be grateful for the scraps of attention they tossed my way. It wasn't just unfair, it was erasing me. My existence was nothing more than the currency they spent on their comfort, and the returns were never mine. There were moments I thought maybe if I did enough, if I gave enough, if I sacrificed enough, I would finally be seen. I thought that Liliana would look at me with that soft, dewy admiration she always reserved for Ryan, that Mason would acknowledge my effort as a triumph, not just an expectation. I thought foolishly, because none of that ever happened. I became the one who fixed everything, saved everyone, and got nothing, not even recognition, not even a word of thanks. I remember driving hours to make sure their vacations were perfect, negotiating with vendors, troubleshooting tech glitches, covering deposits, confirming every last detail. I was the ghost behind the scenes, the one keeping the whole operation afloat, and for what a half-hearted nod, maybe, a fleeting smile, and the knowledge that as long as I existed, they could assume I would take care of it. That's how it felt. Used, invisible, taken for granted. Every time they talked about Ryan's achievements, his parties, his fun weekends, I felt my own life shrinking in comparison. I wasn't supposed to have dreams, at least not ones that competed with their expectations. I was supposed to support, to manage, to enable. And that had been my reality for 28 years. Every plan, every event, every crisis solved quietly, expertly, and invisibly. The more indispensable I became, the more invisible I felt, and the more it ate at me. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. It was subtle. This erasure, the small gestures, the neglect, the constant comparison. The assumption that I would just handle it. Over time, it built up. This weight, this exhaustion, this simmering frustration. I realized, finally, that all the invisible labor, all the sacrifices hadn't bought me recognition. They hadn't bought me respect. They hadn't bought me love. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first step in deciding I didn't have to play that role anymore. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I didn't have to keep playing their game. All those years, invisible, running their lives, solving their problems. And what did I get? A plastic cupcake, maybe next year. They said, well, maybe next year wasn't going to cut it anymore. I looked down at my phone, and it wasn't just a device. It was the master key to everything. Every reservation, every confirmation, every access code, they all ran through me. The idea hit me slowly at first. Then like a spark igniting gasoline, I could take control. I sat back in my chair, heart racing, and ran through the possibilities. I had set up all the digital accounts 3 months ago when they wanted to modernize their finances. They didn't understand tech, never did, and I had made sure everything was linked under my profile. I had the passwords, the admin access, the apps, the digital key to the lake house. If I wanted, I could cancel, reroute, or completely lock them out. The thought made me almost dizzy with a mix of anxiety and vindication. It was power, the kind I had never allowed myself to acknowledge before. All those years, I had been invisible, yet tonight I could finally be seen not for their amusement, but on my own terms. I ran my fingers over the screen, imagining their reactions. Liliana's smirk turning to panic, Mason trying to negotiate, Ryan realizing that golden boy treatment had a limit. My pulse quickened. I could feel a thrill mixed with nerves crawling up my spine. Was I really going to do this? Could I really pull it off? The logical part of my brain ticked through every scenario. No risks overlooked. I had the itinerary for the lake house, the rental car, the chef's arrival, every deposit and security code all in my hands. If they showed up, exhausted, with coolers and bags in hand, they would find nothing. Locked doors, empty accounts, total confusion. The excitement was intoxicating, but so was the tension. I wasn't impulsive, not really. I needed it to be perfect, undeniable, unarguable. The more I thought about it, the more precise the plan became. I would let them drive 4 hours to the lake. I would let them arrive at the beautiful timber-framed front door, the place they had been imagining all week. And then, boom, denied, no access. Trespassers, if they tried to force it, every notification, every code, every little detail was under my control. I could do this. I was in control. And it felt like freedom. I pictured the look on Liliana's face when the door wouldn't open. I could almost hear Ryan yelling, confused. entitled, certain he had a right to everything. I imagined Mason fumbling with the deposit, unsure how to proceed, and me calm, composed, watching it all unfold from wherever I decided to be. That mental image alone made me tremble with a mix of fear and exhilaration. For once, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't just the person who fixed problems and got nothing in return. Tonight, I was the one holding the cards, and it felt incredible. I took a deep breath, remembering every slight, every sacrifice, every instance where my labor was expected, assumed, and ignored. Every time Ryan had been coddled for mediocrity while my achievements were glossed over. Every hour I spent negotiating, troubleshooting, paying deposits, coordinating vendors, and organizing schedules, all for them, all for nothing. It had built up inside me like a pressure cooker. And now, finally, I could release it strategically, with intent, with power. I felt both guilty and gleeful, a strange cocktail of emotions that made my chest tighten and my hands shake. But not with fear. This was righteous. This was reclaiming my time, my effort, my agency. I opened the apps, scanning each one methodically. Flights, reservations, digital locks, admin privileges, guest lists, access codes. I ran through them like a conductor, ensuring each note hit perfectly. And then I smiled. A small, quiet smile, because I realized something. All this time, they had believed I was the obedient, grateful, invisible child. They had no idea how much control I had, how much power had been quietly accumulating in my hands. And tonight, I would finally show them, without shouting, without confrontation, without theatrics. I would simply exist in my power, and they would have to confront the consequences of their entitlement. By the time I booked my escape flight, double-checked the locks, and confirmed that I alone controlled the access, I felt an odd sense of calm, nervous excitement still coursed through me. Yes, but underneath it was clarity. I wasn't acting out of anger. I wasn't acting recklessly. I was finally acting for myself, in the only way that mattered. And the knowledge that for the first time in decades, I could take a step back and watch everything unfold on my terms was almost overwhelming. I closed my laptop and leaned back, letting the anticipation settle into my bones. The quiet thrill of vindication, the calm of knowing I had thought through every step, and the nervous edge of seeing how it would play out. It was all intoxicating. For 28 years, I had given everything to them and received little more than neglect, half-hearted gestures, and a single neon pink cupcake. But now, I was no longer the background, the ghost, the fixer. Tonight, I was the one writing the rules. I sat in my hotel room, the kind of room with white marble floors and linen so crisp they almost hurt to touch. The Pacific Ocean stretching out beyond the balcony, the waves rolling rhythmically, mocking my calm. My phone buzzed nonstop, but I ignored it. I had a mission. I opened my laptop, connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and dove into the accounts I had set up years ago for Mason and Liliana. Accounts they never bothered to change, thinking I was just helping. Funny. Right, I wasn't just helping. I was holding the keys to everything. Every bill, every payment, every little transaction passed through me. And tonight, I was going to see just how far this control could take me. First, I checked the lake house reservation. Sure enough, $4,000 for the week. Standard. But then I scrolled through the transaction history of the shared household account I managed. I had contributed to it monthly for emergencies, savings, whatever they needed. And that's when my stomach twisted. Gourmet chef services, $2,500. Lakeview boat rentals, $1,800. Party City custom decor, $450. Nearly $5,000 in extras for Ryan's birthday. For him, and for me, a neon pink cupcake. It wasn't just insulting, it was criminal. I clicked on the chef deposit and my breath hitched. It wasn't going to a business. It went straight to a personal Venmo account. Ryan's friend, a line cook at a burger joint, being paid $2,500 to grill meat for Ryan while I starved. The injustice burned hotter than the sun outside my balcony. I sat back, blinking at the screen. For decades, I had been the ghost, the fixer, the invisible laborer who kept the family afloat. And they'd taken my trust for granted, literally. I opened the family trust account, the one my grandmother had left for education expenses. $50,000 in total. $25 for me, $25 for Ryan. I hadn't touched my half, saving it for a down payment on a house. But the balance now read $0. $0. I stared at it, my chest tightening. $0. They had drained it, every penny. Business startup capital, tuition, living expenses, all gone. Used to fund Ryan's failed app ideas, living costs, and luxury indulgences. I wasn't just a scapegoat. I was the bank. My hands shook, but this time not from exhaustion. This was different. Cold, sharp clarity. I had the evidence, the transactions, the receipts, the dates. The betrayal wasn't subtle. It was flagrant. And that's when the thought formed. Slow and deliberate, I could make them face it. Every privilege, every entitled assumption, every expectation of invisible labor they were about to encounter consequences. I opened the smart home app, the one controlling the digital locks for the lake house. I'd made the reservation under my account to get a superhost discount, making me the primary administrator. The status blinked back at me. Lakeview Lodge, door locked, access code 1234 active. They were due in 3 hours. Perfect. I deleted the code, created a new one, random, secret. Then I went to the reservation management page, saw the add guest feature, and removed Mason, Liliana, and Ryan. Technically, the reservation was in my name, legally. Only I could be there. No sneaky entry, no override. If they tried to break in, trespassing charges would apply. I hovered over the save button, breathing slowly, feeling that familiar mix of fear, thrill, and vindication. And then I remembered Liliana's iPad, the one she couldn't set up herself 3 years ago. I had synced it to my iCloud account so she could use it for recipes, social media, and messages. She had no idea. I opened the Find My app. It pinged on the highway, likely a rest stop. They were already en route, unaware. I opened messages on my MacBook, and a group chat popped up Team Ryan, pinned to the top. Not me. Messages from the night before, during the dinner. Scrolled automatically, Liliana mocking my outfit. Ryan joking about me being desperate for attention. Mason laughing, telling the waiter to cover me. My jaw dropped. They weren't just oblivious, they were cruel. I felt a hot tear slide down my cheek, but it wasn't sadness. It was release the delusion that they cared, that they loved me, that my sacrifices meant something. Gone. I screenshotted the entire chat. Then the bank withdrawals. PDF compiled, evidence clear, undeniable, I drafted a text to the family, temporarily unblocking them for this one moment. Attachment: the truth. PDF. I hit send, and then silence. I turned off my phone, locked it in the hotel safe, sat on the balcony, watching the ocean, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. As the sun began to dip, painting the sky in purple and orange, I thought about what had just happened. For 28 years, I had been invisible, used, unappreciated, taken for granted. Tonight, I held the keys literally to my liberation and their reckoning. I wasn't acting out of vengeance alone. I was acting out of self-preservation, self-respect, and finally, empowerment. They would face the consequences of their entitlement, their theft, and their disregard for the person who had run their lives flawlessly for decades. And for the first time, I was free to just exist, to just breathe, and to know that the system they assumed they controlled, I controlled instead. I watched the Pacific from my balcony, the waves rolling endlessly, and let the realization sink in tonight. For the first time in 28 years, I wasn't at their beck and call. My phone buzzed incessantly, but I didn't panic. 4 missed calls from Mom, 8 from Dad, 3 from Ryan, and countless texts flashing on the screen. Each one a frantic demand, a plea, a cry for help. But for once, I wasn't their fixer. I wasn't their invisible problem solver. I was calm, detached, and in control. The first text blinked up from Liliana Sadi. Pick up. The code doesn't work. We're at the lodge. I exhaled slowly, savoring the moment. Ryan's message followed almost immediately. Stop being a psycho. Give us the code. My friends are coming. Mason chimed in too, trying to negotiate through his texts. Be reasonable. Sadi, we can fix this. Please, just unlock the door. I read them all, word by word, and then I set the phone down. I wasn't ignoring them out of spite. I was observing quietly, letting the reality I had constructed for them settle. They thought they had power over me. They assumed I would bend, that I would scramble to fix yet another problem they had created. And they were wrong. The keys, the access codes, the reservations, the admin privileges, it all ran through me. I could control every aspect of their precious little vacation, every expectation they had built on my labor, my attention, my presence. And tonight, I was exercising that control. Another text from Ryan. We have to have the keys. Give them to us. This is ridiculous. Liliana Sadi, you are ruining everything. The boys are coming. You cannot do this. Please, just unlock it. Mason's desperate tone through text Sadi. We are trying to be calm. This isn't worth it. Let's talk it through. I read each one, imagining them standing there, sweaty from the drive, luggage in hand, coolers packed with beer, floaties ready for the lake. They had expected a smooth, effortless entry. Instead, they faced locked doors, denied access, and the realization that the invisible child they had taken for granted was gone. I leaned back, sipping my hibiscus tea, and let it all wash over me. My pulse was steady, my hands relaxed. My chest wasn't tight with anger or panic, but with a sense of liberation I hadn't felt in decades. For the first time, I wasn't running on empty trying to fix someone else's problems. For the first time, the chaos wasn't mine to absorb. It belonged to them, and I had orchestrated it with precision. The messages kept coming. Sadie. We're at the lodge. The manager says our names aren't on the list. Liliana's panic practically leapt off the screen. Ryan, frustrated and panicked. Are you joking? Give us the code. Now, Mason pleaded. Please, Sadi, consider being reasonable. Don't escalate this further. Each one a frantic, entitled demand, a desperate attempt to regain control over a situation they had assumed was theirs to manage. And I sat there, detached, observing. I couldn't help but smile when Ryan's text popped up. You little Sadie, little Sadie. That girl had spent her entire life invisible, unseen, endlessly useful, and never appreciated. She wasn't here anymore. That girl had been erased, replaced by someone who understood her worth and refused to hand it over. I tapped out one simple response, maybe next year. Just 3 words, and the effect was instantaneous. Maybe next year would be their chance to get what they wanted. Not tonight. Tonight belonged to me. The messages escalated in intensity. Sadi, call me immediately. We who are standing here. Do something, Liliana typed. Frantic. Ryan, we're locked out. What is wrong with you? Mason's voice now more desperate than ever. Sadie, please, let's be reasonable. Talk to us. We can fix this. And still, I remained calm. I read each message, processed it, and let it sit. I wasn't there to negotiate. I wasn't there to explain. I was just present in my power, observing the chaos I had orchestrated. I thought about their panic, the way they would try to figure out what went wrong. They would call the property manager, try to override the system, beg, plead, and perhaps even rage. None of it mattered. Every lock, every access code, every reservation ran through me. Legally. They were trespassers if they tried to enter the lake house. I imagined their shocked, frustrated faces as the reality of the situation dawned on them. And I felt a thrill. A quiet, intoxicating thrill that came not from cruelty but from reclaiming my time, my effort, and my autonomy. I sipped my tea again and watched the sun dip lower, casting fiery purples and oranges across the ocean. The calm detachment I felt was surreal. For decades, I had been invisible, always expected to bend, to serve, to solve, to sacrifice. And now I had stepped off the hamster wheel. I wasn't responsible for their comfort, their happiness, their entitlement. I was free. The buzzing phone, the flood of messages, the panic of my family, it was all theirs. Mine was peace. Mine was calm. Mine was liberation, even as the texts continued piling in, demanding explanations, begging, threatening. I didn't react immediately. I allowed myself to just exist in the moment, to feel the satisfaction of finally holding the reins of my own life. For 28 years, I had been on call, unseen, underappreciated, invisible. Tonight, for the first time, I had power, clarity, and control. Their chaos was now mine to observe, detached, and entirely unbothered. And I felt something I had never felt before. The raw, exhilarating freedom of finally being in command of my own story. I walked into the office that Monday morning feeling different, light on my feet, even though my chest still throbbed with adrenaline from the week before. My boss had no idea what had happened, and honestly, it didn't matter. I wasn't there for them. I had a plan, and the execution of it felt almost cinematic in my mind. As I walked past the glass-walled high-rise lobby, I spotted Marcus, the security guard who had always been kind, giving me a knowing look. "Morning." "Miss Sadi," he said, a hint of worry in his tone. "Welcome back. You look rested." I smiled. "I am." "Marcus." That was the truth. I'd never felt more myself. Then came the news that made me smirk quietly. My family had shown up at the office. Liliana, Mason, and Ryan. Uninvited, desperate, a mess of entitlement and panic. They'd created quite a scene in the lobby, insisting they were family, trying to push past security. Marcus had been forced to corral them into the glass conference room near the elevators to prevent a spectacle. I paused at the elevator doors, letting the anticipation build. Let them stew a little longer. I adjusted my bag, and with a calm breath, I swiped my badge and entered. Through the glass walls, I could see them. Liliana, hair pulled back, face streaked from worry and a week-old fatigue, her oversized sunglasses barely hiding panic. Mason, head down, rubbing his temples like he was trying to massage sense into the chaos. And Ryan, pacing, kicking the mahogany table leg, all tension and fury. They looked like refugees from some failed reality show. And I was calm. I set my latte down on the glass table with a deliberate clink. The sound echoed softly, and they all looked up. "You!" Ryan shouted the moment he noticed me, lunging forward until Mason grabbed his arm. "Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" I took a slow breath, letting it out evenly. "I have a pretty good idea," I said, voice steady, calm. "I assume the motel wasn't to your liking, or did you end up sleeping in the SUV?" Liliana shrieked, indignation flashing in her eyes. "We slept in a Motel 6. Saudi, you humiliated us. You ruined everything." I leaned casually against the glass wall, letting my presence dominate the room without raising my voice. I suggested. I said, watching them squirm, that you might consider checking the hotel arrangements before assuming I would solve everything for you. Mason's face went pale. It was a misunderstanding. The trust fund, we didn't steal it. We borrowed it for the family. "Borrowed?" I echoed, voice rising slightly. Still calm but cutting. "You borrowed $50,000 meant for my education and my future, for Ryan's app idea that didn't even exist." Ryan flinched, as though I had slapped him. I pulled a folder from my bag, opening it on the table and sliding it toward them. It was the PDF I'd compiled from bank withdrawals, transactions, screenshots of group chat messages, everything. Every deception, every act of theft, every humiliating comment. "I know exactly what you did," I said, slowly, deliberately, making eye contact with each of them. "You used me, my labor, my trust, and my money. And for what? So you could live in your comfortable delusions while I starved on a neon pink cupcake." Liliana's lips pressed into a thin line. "Sadie, you can't," I cut her off, voice calm, firm. "No, you can't pretend this didn't happen. You can't ignore it, and you will face the consequences. Legally, financially, and publicly if necessary. I've already contacted the attorney in Cabo. You have 30 days to restore the trust fund, or I file charges for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty." "Do you understand me?" Ryan sputtered, a red flush creeping up his neck. "You wouldn't. You can't send Dad to jail over money." I leaned in slightly, voice steady, coldly assertive. "Not over money. Over the theft. Over the deception. Over decades of assuming my labor and my presence were yours to command without consequence. That cupcake wasn't just a cupcake. It was the final straw. You've treated me like a servant, a ghost, and a bank. And that ends today." Liliana went pale. Her usual composure shattered. She reached for the paper, but I grabbed it back. "I'm not desperate anymore," I said. "I'm free. I have my own money, my own life, my own respect. I don't have room for people who mock me, exploit me, and ignore my worth. Sadie, please. Mason's voice trembled, tears welling. We can fix this. We can make it right. No, I interrupted. Louder this time, letting my authority fill the room. You can't, because I'm not Sadie the fixer anymore. I'm just Sadie, and Sadie is busy. The room went silent, my colleagues outside peering in, witnessing the culmination of years of tension, manipulation, and entitlement. Liliana scrambled, reaching toward me again, but I waved at Marcus, who immediately approached. These people are trespassing, I said evenly. Please escort them out. If they return, call the police. Liliana's scream echoed as Marcus guided her and Ryan toward the revolving doors, Mason following, defeated and silent. I turned back to the office, exhaling slowly. The adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a profound sense of clarity. The PDF, the evidence, the confrontation, it was done. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't caved. I had presented the facts, set boundaries, and asserted my worth in a way that left no room for denial. My coworkers, still observing from a distance, gave nods of quiet acknowledgement, some even whispering to each other about the boldness of the move. I didn't look back. The power balance had shifted, and it felt incredible. I collected my things, adjusted my bag, and walked to my office, the clicks of my heels echoing in the hallway. For the first time in decades, I felt unburdened, validated, and in control. The weight of their entitlement, their manipulation, their dismissiveness lifted. Finally, after years of invisible labor and silent suffering, I had claimed my space, my power, and my voice, and it felt liberating. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Returning from Cabo 5 days later, I felt lighter in a way I hadn't in decades. My skin was bronzed, my hair lighter from the sun, and my soul roughly 50 pounds lighter from shedding the weight of familial obligation. I hadn't spoken to them since the email, hadn't answered a single missed call. Not because I was petty, but because I finally understood what boundaries meant. It wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was reclaiming the space and dignity that had been stolen from me for 28 years. Every notification that had stacked up, hundreds of calls, texts, frantic pleas, they were now irrelevant. I had reclaimed control of my own life. The first thing I did was focus on myself, not just in fleeting moments, but structurally. I went straight to my office, prestige events, a glass-walled high-rise downtown where professionalism ruled over emotion, where every crisis was solved with spreadsheets, budgets, and precise negotiations. I walked into the lobby at 9 a.m., latte in hand, wearing a linen suit I'd bought at the resort boutique, a small indulgence that felt like a personal victory. Marcus, the security guard who had always been quietly supportive, gave me a tight smile, half worry, half recognition. "Morning, Miss Sadie," he said. "Everything okay?" I smiled back. Genuinely. "I am. Marcus, best birthday of my life." It was true. For the first time, my birthday didn't feel like a burden, an afterthought, a reminder of invisibility. It felt like freedom. And the fallout from my family, well, that was unfolding quietly but thoroughly. Through a cousin who had always been sympathetic, I learned that Ryan had to move back home. The golden child, the one whose life had been propped up by my labor and their family's finances, was now forced to reckon with the consequences of decades of entitlement. Ryan, 26, working shifts at a car rental agency because Mason could no longer afford to subsidize him. Faced reality. He had learned lessons he had no interest in learning the easy way. Liliana, on the other hand, took the hardest hit. In their social circles, image was everything. Her carefully curated persona, the one she had wielded like a weapon to assert control, was shattered when words spread that she had stolen from me and been publicly confronted. Invitations to galas, brunches, high society events, they dried up. Liliana became a pariah, not because she had been caught stealing, necessarily, but because she had failed at the one thing she valued: control. For me, life moved in a different rhythm, without the constant drain of fixing their mistakes, without being the invisible laborer for a family that never valued me. I could breathe. I reorganized my life, focusing on personal growth, health, and stability. Therapy became a cornerstone, helping me untangle decades of conditioning where I had equated love and approval with utility. I reconnected with friends I had neglected because I had been too busy planning dinners, vacations, and bailouts for my family. I allowed myself to invest in relationships that were reciprocal, that didn't come with an invisible toll. This was new. This was exhilarating. And then there was love. Julian, an architect I had met casually a few months prior, became part of this new chapter. He was the antithesis of my family's dynamic, attentive, kind, genuinely curious about my day, about my thoughts, about me as a person rather than my utility. Our interactions were grounded in honesty and mutual respect. One evening, a week before my 29th birthday, he surprised me in my new apartment, a space I had purchased with my own money, fully independent, without needing a trust fund or any handouts. The counter was covered with thoughtful gestures, not performative or ostentatious. A first edition of a book I loved, a framed photo of us from a hike, and in the center, a cake, not a plastic container cupcake, not a neon pink afterthought, but a homemade, slightly lopsided chocolate cake with vanilla frosting. I couldn't help but laugh a little when he said, sheepishly, I tried to make the icing look like a flower. Looks more like a cabbage, but I promise it tastes good. I leaned over, dipped my finger into the frosting, and smiled. It was sweet, rich, real. It was exactly the kind of love and attention I had never experienced from my family. And it was perfect. My inheritance reclaimed. The 30-day deadline I had given them passed without a single repayment attempt from Liliana, Mason, or Ryan. I had made the threat explicit, undeniable. I worked with attorneys, ensuring that the funds were restored fully. When the check arrived, I didn't spend it impulsively. I deposited it into a high-yield savings account I named the Freedom Fund, a symbolic and practical step. The money represented more than just financial security. It represented autonomy, self-respect, and the tangible validation that I was worthy of care and diligence, not exploitation. Professionally, the aftermath played in my favor too. My boss, who had witnessed the confrontation indirectly and understood the poise with which I had handled it, offered me a promotion to Director of Client Relations. I need someone who can handle high-pressure negotiations and isn't afraid to draw hard lines. He said, the way you handled that was executive material. The irony wasn't lost on me. The skills honed over decades managing crises for a family that never appreciated me were finally recognized, compensated, and valued in the corporate world. For once, my labor, intellect, and strategy had tangible returns, and they weren't exploited by anyone else. I took the next year to rebuild in earnest. I redecorated my apartment to feel like a sanctuary, a reflection of me rather than a functional stopover for anyone else's needs. I traveled not to serve, not to solve, but simply to exist, to breathe, to explore. I invested in experiences that filled me, not others. I practiced saying no, setting boundaries, and observing how liberating it was when my no was respected. The sense of agency, of finally having ownership over my time and energy, was profound. I realized how deeply indoctrinated I had been into serving others at the cost of myself, and how intoxicating, how empowering it was to reverse that dynamic. And then came my 29th birthday. I woke up that morning expecting a familiar ache, that phantom limb of rejection that had haunted me every birthday for years. I braced for it out of habit, but instead, I found Julian standing there, the counter covered in thoughtful, personal touches. No comparison to Ryan's over-the-top displays, no sense of obligation or performance, just care, genuine attention, and an acknowledgement of my worth. I didn't feel the ache of being invisible or ignored. I felt seen, valued, loved. I didn't need to wish for anything. I already had everything I wanted: freedom, self-respect, love, and autonomy. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it, saw a blocked number flashing, and knew instantly it was Liliana, and I felt nothing. No urge to justify, no curiosity, no residual attachment. I deleted the notification without opening it. That chapter was closed. I had nothing left to reclaim from that toxic dynamic. I was living, breathing, thriving in the life I had built, entirely on my own terms, sitting there, savoring the homemade cake. The warmth in my chest was entirely mine, not validation sought from others, not the fleeting satisfaction of being noticed by those who had never truly cared. I had my freedom, my joy, my life, and for the first time, birthdays didn't sting. They were a celebration of me, not a comparison, a measure, or a competition. I realized that all those years of sacrifice, invisibility, and endurance had forged something invaluable: clarity, resilience, and the power to claim my own happiness. Looking back, the contrast between past and present was stark. From the girl trembling over a neon pink cupcake, overlooked and undervalued, to the woman standing in her own home, with the people who genuinely cared, with financial security and professional respect. This wasn't just growth. It was a reclamation of my identity, my agency, and my worth. It was liberation in its purest form, warm and exhilarating, like the first deep breath of fresh ocean air after a long, suffocating winter. I didn't need to wait for next year. I had created my own timeline. I had fought for my space, my dignity, and my freedom, and I had won. And as I stood on the balcony that morning, the ocean stretching endlessly, the sunlight bouncing off the waves, I whispered quietly to myself, smiling, I'm right here. I'm exactly where I belong. And in that moment, it was enough. Perfectly, completely enough. So, that's how it all unfolded. After years of being overlooked, used, and undervalued, she finally claimed her life, her inheritance, and her peace of mind. She found freedom, respect, and real happiness, proof that setting boundaries and standing up for yourself can change everything. It's a reminder that your worth isn't defined by others, and that sometimes taking control of your story is the bravest thing you can do. And who knows, maybe it's time to rewrite your own next chapter.